right. Oh no. Forgot my phone. Where did it go? Okay, now the live stream can begin. Welcome back to episode 5. Today, we're going to work on the hands of Saint Carlo Acutis, recently canonized, September 7th. You can read all about his life online. Please, as you're watching, if you have questions, even if you're watching this 5 years later, if you have questions, just ask. Be happy to share part of the process and some of the things I'm thinking about as I'm creating and so on and so forth. So before we get started, you can see I've already transferred the image to the panel here. And if you'd like to see how that was done, you can actually see a video of me using a VR headset to transfer this image. Pretty neat. And then I've already mixed up a few values and colors here for my skin tones. And these are just some guesses, so what I think might be useful, but nice thing is I can dive into any of my palette colors here to change these and shift them as needed. So today it's going to be probably a little shorter and maybe only in the hour range, but we'll see if I can get a major block in accomplished here with the hands. So stick around. You can see the reference on the left. You can see my overall panel progress on the right, the lower right. And you can also see the palettes. So you can kind of check the colors I'm using. You can see what I pull from and when. With that, let's begin. So immediately one of the things that even using a thing like the MetaQuest 3 to help draw this image in place, I don't like how thick some of these occur. Like some of the arm just appears a little strange, maybe a little too thick. So I'm going to be adjusting the drawing here just a little bit, shrinking things down just slightly, so that they really fit with the rest of the with the hands and proportionally with the rest of the saints who are being depicted. It's just a little off, and maybe something I would only notice, but someone else would eventually. They'd be like, "Whoa, look at the size of that guy's hands," and then that would change everything. So right away, I like to start with my darkest dark, and so if I look at that, if I kind of look at this area, you can see there's a lot of lost edges. Things are kind of feel kind of slightly unclear, but that's okay. We're going to lean into that. Some of the darkest areas I like to begin with first, because that's kind of a fixed point. Everything from there, you can kind of measure that against. So I'm going to start off with this little dark shape that I see between his fingers. Fingers on this side. I may have to come back in, so my color is not quite opaque enough, so this is going to require a second coat, and I'm aware of that, and I will work on that when I get the opportunity. Immediately, one of the things that I noticed was the drawing that was off, so I'm just going to kind of cut in a little bit on all these fingers to make them just slightly smaller. Nice thing is I've got a fairly dark background here that is more or less reading as black, so I'm going to use that to help me do a bit of a redraw here. I'm just redrawing. And at any time, please drop a question in the chat. I'd be happy to field those. It can, it can be about anything. Maybe you also just want to tell me how bad it's looking. That's fine too. I can work with that. So just a small couple changes here as I just bring in the size of everything just slightly. It was interesting, I finished the hand of Saint Diffna right here-ish, and then I kind of glanced over to the hands of Carlo Acutis, and I was like, whoa, I missed that. Didn't quite catch that. And that was more of a problem in my initial Photoshop mock-up. You know, I'll take the references and I'll build a mock-up both for myself and for the church, so they can kind of see, hey, this is the direction I'm going to go in, and it's just a great way to kind of solve a lot of problems early. Okay, like I said, I'm going to cut in here just a little bit, make fingers just slightly smaller. Same for the hand. I mixed I haven't quite decided. I know, sounds a little bad, but there are moments where like I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do, like directly behind him, and so I'll just kind of leave it maybe slightly undone, and then maybe more of the painting establishes itself, and then it becomes clear kind of what needs to happen. We'll get started there. So I'm bringing that side in a little bit. This is now going to be my just background color brush. He's got jeans on, right? So if you know a little bit about Carlo Acutis, you know he was a very young man. In fact, the church's first millennial saint. And so he's, you know, pictures that we have of him, because we do, he's often depicted or shown this classic kind of red polo and jeans, backpack, sunglasses. And it's so fascinating because a student of art history, and especially a student of the Holy Image and sacred artwork throughout the ages. And you know, saints often they become known for instance, John the Baptist. If you see a saint depicted with like a really hairy shirt on, you know that's a dead giveaway. It's John the Baptist, because he had a coat of camel hair, and so he's often depicted with camel hair, and it's kind of one of those like, oh yeah, we know who that guy is, because we can see there's the camel hair coat guy. So that's the case for, you know, a lot of the saints, all different ways in which they have just little bits of symbols and things associated with them that help the viewer know who they're looking at. And so in some ways, like, it's kind of beautiful that throughout history that Carlo Acutis will have these few bits of symbols with him, symbols of his kind of youth. And so we are just doing this, we're just doing the same thing the artists have done throughout the ages, help the viewer know who they're looking at without knowing. All right, so see, because I wanted to do a little bit of redrawing, I just brought in, I kind of re-outlined, cut into the hand a little bit, and yeah, I think that's working. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, although this hand, it's not as bad. That one just looked really wide, and that could have been a bad transfer as well. Whoa, looking at the amount of people in the stream. Apparently they didn't like the art history lesson. Okay. Coming in here. This, like I said, shrinking this down just a little bit overall. to be just a little too big. Had a model stand in for me to pose for him. It was great. I love the process too, because not only is the model like excited for for what it means, but also how we just work together. We kind of trust these leadings, and because it was a young man, his mother was there too, and we were trying a few different poses, and I don't remember what I didn't even think about the backpack, but then she was like, hey, we should include the backpack, and I was like, yeah, of course we should. So it's so much of the process is helped by others, and I don't claim ever to have the full understanding of what's going to make the best artwork, but it's a group effort. That's why I like to make that mock-up like I was talking about. The mock-up is a great way for us to solve a lot of the problems in the moment rather than later. Okay, as you can see, my drawing only describes like this knuckle right here, so there's no other drawing like, oh, where does that finger begin and end? I don't know. All right, so I'm gonna have to make some decisions there and put that in. I can do a couple of things like this is what's called a comparative measurement. So I'm adding, well, where I think, like on this pinky here, because this is fairly established, that index finger kind of intersects there about. And if I draw an imaginary line from the finger here, we've got the knuckle shadows just a little higher. And then if that's the case, these guys are gonna connect here. Oh, it's Monday, noon whistle. I'll try to be really quiet, and then you can hear the sounds of Kansas on a Monday at noon. Tornado sirens going off. It's great. I'm gonna be quiet. Maybe you'll hear it if you listen really intently. All right, this, hope you caught that, a little bit of extra flavor straight from Kansas. See we have the shadow side of this finger, but then same figures. Ooh, listen. Yeah, the same finger is casting a shadow here on the ring finger. So I'm just gonna block that in, and I'm still looking at those and saying, man, that is a very dark value. Good morning, Rodney. It's good to see you. Thanks for tuning in and hanging with me. I appreciate it. I know last Friday was TGIF. How is this Monday treating you? Rodney, I saw some of the portraits you were doing, and some of the work. Great work. It's looking good. All that said, for everyone who may be watching, I really avoid social media, and very rarely, I'll get on Facebook and Instagram, and I realize what I'm saying as I'm streaming on YouTube. But yeah, this is a different place. You had a good weekend. Awesome, awesome. Getting in some of the shadows of the fingers here, and like these are crude decisions. I'm not really trying to get everything right. I'm just wanting to get at these overall values. And we're gonna have a lot of lost edges in here. It's gonna be exciting to puzzle those out. And lost edges are the best. And they're really a natural occurrence. You know, one of the things that happens is life is full of lost edges. And you know, you can't, you know, to look at my reference, again, you can see how many spaces you can't quite tell what's happening, especially like the index finger and thumb. You know, where they're, you know, kind of right here where I'm painting. It's hard to tell. That's okay. In fact, if we do it right, if we get all the right information and drawn carefully where it's supposed to go, then it just works. And in fact, it'll work better than if we tried to carefully describe it and say, oh, the viewer really needs to know where the edge of that finger is. No, they don't. Because we realize it or not, everyone who is, did you grow up on this earth? Can you see, you have those experiences? Like, you know reality better than you realize. And subtle light scenarios, the mind is great at, you know, picking up on enough visual information that it needs to make sense of things. And so a good realist painter is actually playing with that and knowing that, like, hey, only this much information is needed, because the human eye is, and our, you know, our mind's thirst for to make sense of things quickly says, oh, okay, I see how that lines up with that, and then, okay, yep, there, okay, yeah, that's it, got it. So there's a lot of psychology to painting as well. You want to understand our desire to make sense of things. And so those lost edges are really quite frequent in life. I'm sure if you looked to the corner of the room that you're in, especially if you just have kind of a daylight scenario, maybe just some window light. That's what I have going on here in the studio. I bet one of those corners is just hard to see. And if you unfocus your eyes or you squint a little bit, you may not actually be able to see where the corner is, but you still make sense of where it is. And so painting is, you can really utilize that understanding that we intuitively all have. All right, I'm going to try to talk a little bit more rather than painting philosophy, a bit more what I'm doing technically. Right now I'm filling in these shadows on the shadow side of all these fingers, and it doesn't look like anything right now. And that's part of the process. So this under shadow, I didn't notice it was just this under shadow on the ring finger here. It's just slightly warmer. It's got a little bit of light on that side. We'll get that later. That'll be fun. And I don't have any underpainting undergirding this right now, so it is going to take a while to get it to make sense. We'll get there though. All right, I'm going to block in some of these edges here. They're very, very warm. It's a kind of a warm dark. then the bottom of that pinky is just catching just a little bit of light. That's going to be fun when we get to it. Get a little bit of reflected light on things. Just go ahead and use the thinness of the paint right now and the fact that I don't have anything else going on to get there. I love glancing over to the stream and kind of seeing the madness that is what it looks like. Man, that looks like nothing, doesn't it? It's awesome. All the better for when it begins to kind of come together. And this dark side here. Yeah, you know, so much is in shadow over here. Yeah. He's also, one of the characters is a little bit farther away from the light. Light's coming from the right. And great symbolism there too. The crucifix is to the right in the chapel. So, illuminating the figures. Okay, into the shadow in. Yeah, some of these darks are probably going to need a second layer. I should have prepared more with just a slight underpainting. That's all right. I can fiddle with it later. Okay, we're starting to get to that point where we need a little bit more. It's about to turn. I think that's the most exciting thing, where it's like all this sort of two value breakdown I'm building right now is about to start seeing just a little more what's going on. Carefully adding. This is just adding the dark shapes. So these, and at least on the tablet I'm working from, I'm doing my best to kind of match the color, but more importantly, the value. I'm just focusing on these darkest of darks first, and then we'll get to more. There's a shadow there in the knuckle. Here, a bit of shadow on this side of the hand. And I think everything else is going to have a little bit of light to it. So let me get the in-between colors here, in between some of these fingers. Just really quick, something so it's just there, you know. It needs to be there. So it's not reading this, whatever color I got going on here. Right. Rodney, did you start creating your colors with the Zorn palette? This past weekend I decided to start my block-ins with Zorn and then try adjusting my temperatures after that. Makes sense? Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting because, you know, in some ways my palette is like an extended Zorn, right? I mixed my black, so burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, that's my black, and white, and yellow ochre, and cad red, right? So that's it. So 5 of my colors are more or less the Zorn palette. Yes, I get it. That's technically not a black, but it is my black. And then I just have a few others. And so like I have a slightly extended Zorn, And so, yes, the answer is yes. I'm certainly blocking it in like simple terms, and then I'll dial in the color as I see fit. And again, value is chief. If the value is good, then the rest is going to be fine. So yeah, value first. Always remember. And in some ways, that's all I'm doing right now, is just focusing on the values. Try not to lose my drawing too much. And Rodney, if I didn't touch on that, if I didn't answer well enough on that, you can ask me a follow-up question. Make sure these messages all right, I've got a definite cutoff at 1 o'clock Central Time. So we've got about another 45 minutes. We're gonna get this blocked in. So because I like to use a range of brushes for my values, I started off with, this is kind of my dark value brush. I'm gonna set it aside now because I'm gonna make the next jump. This was like my background colors brush where I just was like, I need to fill in a few things just so that I can see what I'm doing. And now we're gonna start working on some of the lighter values. So I'm gonna get out this is just a round, just a sable round. And this will allow me to get a few shapes in here and with just a little bit of control. These values that are quote unquote lighter are not all that lighter. They're, this is even the hands that are in the light, especially toward the bottom, they're really dark. I'm going to start off a little lighter than I think, but yeah, that might be still darker than I wanted. Okay, we'll grab a little bit of this, see if that does it. I think that's about right. So I'm going to filling in the light here. I like this color, it worked. Come back into it. Now, anytime I'm making these marks, I'm also drawing. I can't emphasize enough that I am constantly drawing. So if I determine that this shape is where I see the light falling on that pinky, then I need to pay attention to that. So I'm going to do the same thing here on the ring finger, carefully adding light. And as you can see, I'm going to have to slowly get some of these shadows in here. There is a shadow side, even if it is just slightly lighter, but shadow side on this pinky all the way down here. And maybe just a little more. And same for that ring finger. This is really methodical, and I think there's a spirit generally in painting where it needs to, I don't know, be more, or I think people maybe imagine painting as, it's certainly intuitive, but it's also very methodical. Until I accurately, or at least get something down, even if it's slightly inaccurately done, until I get there, I still, right now, I'm not going to make a good decision on what I'm creating. Got a little bit of light here. I want to capture that. So I need to get enough information in here so that I can start to make some definitive decisions. Just notice that little space there. It's good, light coming through. That's actually a great cue. When then the hand gets really dark in the back there, I have that just little blip of light in between the fingers. Actually will help with drawing, that thing I described, where people will look at it and be like, I don't know what those lost edges I was talking All right, let's continue. Since we're a little brief today. And now anything that has some of the ground layer that I put down, anything that has that in it is gonna steal from like the volume in the from this beginning to work. So I really got to start covering that up as best I can. The sooner the better. All right, let's see. I love these darker areas because they do really help create a lot of volume. So here's a good point. Like, so you can see in the reference his knee. So his knee is kind of down here. He's slightly squatted. The final pose, and because you can see I'm lower in the frame, right? And I don't. That line is currently of the knee is like perfectly lining up with the finger. Those sorts of things are never good. So I'm gonna bring it up just slightly so that it's just an unfortunate coincidence when that happens, and you want to try to avoid those sorts of things because they have a way of confusing the viewer. That things are like too perfectly aligned. So I will go ahead and kind of make a shadow that goes a little farther up the side here. And we'll work on that some more later. But yeah, these are the major block ends. So Rodney says, "You did. I speak your language. Good. We have the same palette, and it makes my black too." Yes, yeah. So yeah, it's so I'm always kind of thinking Zorn palette, thinking value first and foremost. And that can be boring at times, so at first, but if you really establish those values, it gets exciting quick. Because there's real physicality that begins to happen when those values are established. Just laying in. And this fingers gets really dark here. Let me catch a little bit of light on the very tip. Because it's reflecting some of the warmth down from below. I want to keep it nice and warm. And warm is one of those terms kind of mean a lot of different things. So sometimes it's like, okay, no, I need to make it a little bluer and a little redder, or I need to, a little more yellow, a little more orange. Sometimes it's just helpful to use a color language rather than warm, cool language. But my default is to speak in temperature code. All right, catching just the first time, just a little more light right on the edge of that finger. And then we lose that beam of light behind the knuckle here. We're going to meet up with it again though, right on the other side. Starting with this. And these pre-mixtures, yeah, if you want to watch me do some mixing, I did so when I did St. Dymphna's hair last, I think it was last Friday. So you can watch kind of what the mixing process, if you go back to, I think, episode 4. I included that. That can be really time consuming, so I don't normally show it because it can be like 30 minutes of mixing colors, just so that I have again, I like just a broad range of things that I'm seeing, and I believe that helps me just move a little quicker, so I'm not having to mix as much in the moment, so I can just really fill in and then refine. Yeah. There we go. We're getting there. See, it's starting to look like something. I promised it would. Trying to think of an analogy when you're working on something and you're like, this doesn't look like anything yet. And all of a sudden, it just comes together nicely. Slowly bringing that shadow up to where I see it engage. It's that tiny edge of light starting to touch that side of the hand. Yep. And you can notice there's not a lot of blending going on. So I'm not blending the paint. I might make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strokes or something like that, but that's it. Don't do too much of that if you can. Make your mark and get out. A little lighter here on this index finger. Guess that's not so bad. I was thinking it looked kind of blue, but and you can kind of watch my head in the bottom right. I see there's just, it is lots of assessments. You don't have to make a mark every second. You can kind of take a look, decide, place. How far does, for instance, that one nod there was me just saying, okay, well, how far does the shadow come down? Because I really need to capture that if I want to be successful. If I put that shadow in the wrong place, it's not going to read as the right portion of the hand. So that shadow needs to come up just a little bit. All right, let's see if we can get the back of that hand. Just a little bit of the value. Again, these are not, I know these are areas that are quote unquote in the light, but they are not light. I mean, this is still a very dark value that I'm putting down, but it's the light. So that's why it's really important to kind of know your values and pay attention. I got a little darker than I wanted. It's all right. So sometimes it's helpful, like, okay, then I can do a bit of blending just to correct that. But even still, it didn't stay there for long. It's a little redder on the inside, you know, hands, fingers, like your nose, your ears, like these things have a tendency to be redder, especially in lighter skin tones. So probably at the end of all this, I'll share. I mean, end of like the whole thing. Well, I'll try to share a video of maybe put a little something together of it being worked. I don't know, something, and then maybe installed. I think that would be interesting to see it installed. Shadow underneath the knuckle. I have this, you know, there's no rule on this, but I have a tendency to sort of work left to right if I'm on a section, and that's just because I'm right-handed, and if I'm starting to get really close, I'll use my pinky as a brace. It's the only reason. There's no hard rule on that. It's just how I do it. Redder around the knuckles. You can almost just bank on that. Add it. I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to see that it might look like something. Just a few minutes ago, it was a wreck, but now it's looking better and better. Darker occlusion shadow where the thumb or the finger is kind of going in between the index and the thumb here. Yeah. And that's one of those things that may to be darkened later so that it really, for effect. Shadow behind the hand here. Just put that in just a little bit. Finding a little bit of volume here in this little space. And then that kind of swoops down into the wrist. The wrist is catching just a little more light. And as you can see, it's just a game of comparisons. I'm slowly putting it back more and more. As I walk down the wrist, I'm asking myself, okay, lighter, darker, what's happening? Just a little more. All right, let's see. I'm going to have to grab the door in about 10 minutes. But I'll keep streaming if I'm allowed. All right, warmer on the backside here. So you might just see me walk away here in 10 minutes. I'll say bye, but I'll leave the stream up. For those of you who are very dedicated, just stay watching the stream. There's a lot of great colors, Rodney. To some of that you were talking about, like there's some really nice kind of gray, green, blues throughout here that I'm going to put in, but probably not this time, simply because I can't even get this as dark as it needs to be, just because it doesn't have anything underneath it. And so in time, it's gonna look a lot better. Get the light on that knuckle just barely. That light's starting to turn there. Okay. Yeah, the hands. They're starting to look like hands. Oh my word. And even covering up that little dot there that was light, I mean, it's just like, oh, yeah. This is really where almost every move is, it just makes it better and better. Because all of that stuff that was sticking out begins to go away. And I'll have to come in with some smaller brushes, but you know, right now, trying to work just some bigger marks. That's all you need. Really, there's like something that's lost once you go smaller than this. Sometimes if I could, I would kind of stick with this size here. A little bit of light hitting these fingers. Actually, it's going to be good for me to get up and get the door, because last time I was seated like this, which I know you can't see. Maybe it looks like I'm in a chair or something. I'm not. I'm just sitting on a 6-inch high crate with a cushion, so that it's more comfortable. Yeah, I was a little sore getting up. It's like worn out. And I've said it on this channel before, but the next position is always the best position. It's a good friend of mine who's a physical therapist. Just keep moving, do something different. You know, just kind of softening this edge here. Filling in those in-between values. know there's still a lot of these little marks that aren't quite covered up, but it's coming along. Filling in little holes that are stealing space. Okay. It's not bad for, I know the first hand. Oh, here, let me clean that up just a little bit. Transition down there, working my way into that shadow. There we go. I'm just really now at this point just trying to remove most of that ground layer that's still sticking out. There we go. And we'll throw some shadow in on the side. Okay, that's blocked in pretty good. That's all right. Now, got the second set of hands here, and let's see what we can do. Second set of hands, sorry, second hand. Most of the areas of shadow have now been blocked in. So I'm going to set aside my shadow, my darker value brush. I'm going to just kind of get out this one here and fill in. Oh, I forgot to plug in. I thought the screen had gone dim. Forgot to plug it in. Sorry. Okay, while that's turning back on, I am going to run downstairs and grab the door. You can hang out for a bit if you like. I'll return. Be right back.